ANIX, Albanian Neutral Internet Exchange.
So hello, the second Albanian presentation in a row. Although I'm not Albanian, my name is Daniele Arena and I'm Italian. I work for NaMeX, which is the internet exchange point in Rome, Italy. But I'm not here to talk about Italy, as I said, but about Albania and something that NaMeX has supported in the last year. So clicker, I hope this gets... So this is something I already talked about last year for whoever was in Budva, but at that time it was just an idea, an initiative. And so I'm here to tell you what happened since last year. Well, first of all, we wanted to build an IXP. The first thing that we thought we would do was to organize and to try to mobilize a community. So since there was no network operators group in Albania, we organized the first, we called it Albanian Network Operators Forum, because it wasn't an existing group, it was just a way to meet all together in the same place at the same time, and to get everybody together to discuss the networking. So RIPE-NCC was a sponsor of this initiative, and ISOC as well as Cisco and ADVA, so great sponsors that could make this happen. So what happened? We presented the initiative to build the IXP to all the Albanian internet service providers, and we managed, thanks to the good help of Jan as well, to create an actual network operators group called ALNOG. By the way, we are planning to have another meeting, which would be the first actual meeting of ALNOG. It's going to be probably November, December. This year, we're going to advertise it on the SAE mailing list, so stay tuned and hopefully see you in Tirana. So what happened on that day? Well, it was quite a success. We had more than 100 attendees from 50 plus Albanian ISPs and various entities, agencies. We had some of the usual suspects as speakers. We had also a panel between Albanian ISPs. So all in all, it worked well. And that was the start of a magnificent adventure, because a few months later, we managed to set up the infrastructure of ANIX. As you heard, the collocation is at Trash, which is the academic network of Albania. There's a core switch, Cisco switch donated by NaMeX. We got AS numbers and IP addresses. But more details on the operations later, because this is kind of a handover presentation, because we got Kledi, who's here today, who's going to talk later about the operations, and he joined the team, and he's the one who's coordinating the ANIX effort now. So ANIX is actually live. We started it in March this year, so just 3 months ago. We have 3 peers connected, which we know is the bare minimum for to define an IXP, but we have 6 more on the way. We have very little traffic so far, so 50, 60 megabits, with some spikes though of 800 megabits from time to time. So yeah, there's certainly margin to increase. And since we're at a RIPE meeting, I want to stress the importance that the tools provided by RIPE-NCC were to analyze the situation and to see the improvements. So you've heard yesterday about IXP Country Jedi, and it's basically a matrix that shows the connections between that does trace routes between different probes in the same country. And well, this I'm colorblind, so I don't know whether this yellowish beige thing, that's the bad thing. Very bad, because it means that not only the trace routes don't pass through an internet exchange, but it actually, the routes go outside of the country and then back. So it's pretty bad. And there's zero routes that go through an internet exchange. And that was February. This is now, so it has marginally improved, but there's at least a few trace routes that actually go through the internet exchange ANIX. And just a very geeky, nerdy thing to do, this is like a raw atlas that shows a ping from Rash to one of the other members of the exchange, and it shows the ping dramatically decreasing from the moment it's connected to the exchange from 90 milliseconds, because the route went, I think, through Sweden or something, and to basically almost zero, so less than 10 milliseconds. There's still some work to do, because there are still quite a few routes that go through Europe, but you know, we're getting there little by little. Okay, this is okay. Thank you. So, one of the issues that we had when analyzing the Albanian peering situation, the Albanian interconnection, was the content. So people told us, you know, there's not going to be too much traffic in there. Why? Because there's not much content. So we actually took a look at that, and can anyone guess, out of the top 50 Albanian listed websites in Alexa, how many are hosted in Albania? I see a big fat 0 there, and that's correct. 0 are hosted inside Albania. And I don't have the comparison graph here, but this is unique. I mean, we made comparison with other SEE countries, and the other countries have at least a couple of websites hosted inside the country. At least a couple. I mean, excluding the Googles and everything. So, actually, many ISPs even host their own website outside Albania. So that means that if I am an ISP, I have to pay for transit for my customer to reach my website. So, but this happens quite a lot, actually. So the reason is, it's a vicious circle. So basically, the fact that there was no IXP, there are some direct interconnections, but obviously this is not scalable. So the local interconnection between ISPs is not good. So this means that all the packets, as we saw in IXP Country Jedi, have to go abroad and then come back. So why do we want them to come back? Let's just host the content abroad, so it's just, you know, halfway, and they just stay there, the packets. But, you know, that's wrong on so many levels. So our vision is to create a healthy interconnection environment and a virtuous circle that would keep local traffic local and improve the development of local infrastructure and take back the content, which also means an improvement of you know, hosting providers, local hosting providers which almost don't exist, because all those who exist host their content abroad, and you know, jobs, economy, money, and this kind of thing. So, as I said, this is a handover presentation, so let me introduce to you Kledi, who is the guy actually managing the exchange, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about how the exchange works.
Thank you, Daniele. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kledi Andoni. I've been in the Albanian ISP scene since the late 90s, and I've had the privilege and pleasure to be in this startup group of the Albanian Neutral Internet Exchange. All right, here we go. coming back to what Daniele was saying, ANIX is basically the only neutral IXP in the country, where operators are free to join based on just some technical requirements, and members are encouraged and certainly allowed to exchange services apart from peering at the exchange. The idea is to have ANIX run as a member-based IXP, where the members will manage, fund, and decide on how the exchange is going to be developed. Getting here was not easy, as Daniele stated previously. We've run into quite a few obstacles, but at last we got there. All the works to get the IXP started were done with the help of NaMeX and Rush and the Albanian ISPs, which helped with building the infrastructure, the conduit from the public pipe on the street down to inside the data center of the academic network. And this was quite an important part where all the ISPs felt really involved as they were building a piece of this thing. Our current setup is pretty basic. We have one switch, two servers, which are there basically for redundancy, and a small router and a management switch, for the back office purposes. Everything is virtualized into those two servers. Functions are split between the two machines in order to have redundancy in case of hardware failure. We have configured this setup with two route servers, one route collector. We have set up an AS112 peer and a DNS server to provide AS112 services. And the other usual firewalling and management stuff you'd usually need. This is practically, as you can see, this is quite simple scheme. We get some transit right now from the academic network in order to reach and manage this equipment. There are the two servers and the peering switch where the peers connect. Logically, it's split as in the picture, where we have on one host we have the Ixp Manager software, on which I'm going to talk a little bit more in the next slides, and one of the route servers, while on the other server we have the other route servers functional in the exchange. Right, so Ixp Manager was surprisingly beautiful, let's say. We are very happy with it because it facilitated and made possible setting up the IXP very easily with not too much work. I mean, instead of building everything from scratch, for those of you who have not heard about Ixp Manager or don't know the details, it's a quite complete package for the IXP. You can maintain your membership there. It will do billing. It will generate traffic graphs. Potentially, we have not implemented that yet because we're not ready yet. Automatic configuration of the switches, that's to come at a later moment. The route server's configuration is automatically generated by the Ixp Manager. All the graphs and statistics on traffic are gathered and displayed by Ixp Manager again. The nice thing, oh, and it also includes a member interface where the member can go and see his own information, update his own information, gather traffic information, and also check the prefixes who were filtered out by the system. So that it helps them also diagnose possible issues with their announcements or their ripe objects. Nice thing, it's completely free and open source software, and it has quite an interesting community which is pretty active on their mailing lists, and if there is any trouble, I mean, someone will certainly answer. For the route servers, we're using the BERT, Internet Routing Daemon, which is very agile. It supports both v4 and v6, and it's already configured at our exchange. All our route servers, I mean, including the quarantine and the AS112, everything is using BERT right now. The configuration is fully automatic. Filters are generated automatically based on the ASN or AS set provided by the member. And we also collect some, on our route collector, we do some dumps of the BGP updates in order for us to have historical information of what was happening at the exchange at every moment. Right now, as Daniele said, I mean, peering is at the bare minimum. We only have 3 members, but there are 6 more on the way. And it's not just words. These are the guys that actually helped with building the conduit. And right now we have 2 of the biggest ISPs in the country, Upcom and ATU, as well as the NRAN, the Albanian Academic Network. As you can see, traffic is not huge, and it's mostly exchanged between the 2 ISPs. The Academic Network stands for the little red part, which is understandable. I mean, these ISPs are doing multiple gigabytes of traffic while the academic network is smaller. Even though there are only 3 members present at the exchange, there are 27 actually, because the 29th is the AS1112 ASN, but there are 27 Albanian ASNs visible at the exchange with over 140 routes. We did have quite a few routes 1 month ago, and it mostly was because of those misconfigured objects or missing objects in the RiveDB that Ixp Manager was so nice to filter out. But we held a training last month, BGP training for all the Albanian ISPs, and you know what? The next day, that number dropped from like 30-something dropped routes to just 5, which was something very positive. And we will try to keep this thing going. I mean, that's our main goal right now is to increase the membership base. I mean, to get these, first of all, the Albanian ISPs, and then we're working hard to get the international carriers and CDNs to join the exchange, to be present in the country. What's very important is for us to increase the visibility of the exchange, because a lot of people don't really know it exists. Even in, I mean, I want to talk to Jan later, because even the ISOC page has some old, very old, outdated information about IXPs in Albania. We want to provide training, which is very important. I mean, not all the ISPs, Albania is a small and, let's say, poor country, so not all the ISPs can afford, you know, the best engineers. So keeping people informed and trained continuously it's quite important. And we're trying to do that periodically, hopefully in cooperation with NCC. So basically, it's quite simple what we have done until now, as most of you know, I mean, very well how an IXP works and what it means. But our aim, we try to aim high, and we'll try to make the best out of this IXP so that all the Albanian operators can exchange traffic locally and not as in the previous maps where your trace goes through Sweden. This is basically it. So if there are any questions or even recommendations. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. I saw the graphs earlier in Daniele presentation. There are some spikes, big spikes. Do you know the source of these spikes? Because why I'm asking, because we have some similar spikes in Ixp Manager, but we don't see them in other graphs like Cacti or something. So.
You take it, but I want to ask you whether you're talking about the 800.
Yes, it's a big spike comparing to the rest of the traffic.
Actually, no, the 800 megs spikes shouldn't be Ixp Manager stuff. It should be its actual traffic because it lasts like 1 hour.
So this graph isn't generated by Ixp Manager?
It is.
Oh, it is.
But it's not, we had a different problem, which Kledi will tell you, but it was just a 5 megs issue. But no, these 800 megs are actual.
There was this issue with the Ixp Manager graphs.
Do you know the source?
The source was between the two ISPs.
So it's real traffic?
It was real traffic because the Ixp Manager graphs matched the Cacti graphs, which are generated by two completely different systems. Sadly, we don't have any switch which supports S-flow or something. So in order to understand what that traffic was, we did ask the ISPs what was that, but they saw the traffic, but they didn't bother to analyze what that was. But it was real traffic. It was not some fake thing.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Jan, do you have a question?
It works, yes. Jan George. Okay, you mentioned that you have this quarantine root server.
Yes.
Can you share with this community what you do with it and what's the purpose, what exactly you do with that?
Well, tell you the truth, until now, we never used it, just because we had the first 3 members in. The idea is to have that quarantine root server in place, so that, when the 4th member joins, it first, for the first few hours or maybe 1 day, connects to the quarantine root server, so we can see what they're sending, which prefixes and whatever they're sending, and see so that it doesn't interfere with.
So it's like sanity check.
It's sanity check.
If the person on the other end has a driver's license and knows how to drive the BGP. Exactly. Okay. Well, interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. I don't know how many other IXP operators are there here, but the quarantine VLAN and servers are used in a lot of other and even larger exchanges, and this is also to check for rogue broadcast traffic. The only issue is that you can check for the driver license, as Jan said, before putting them in, but then it's very hard to recheck this. It's not like you can take them out and re-quarantine them. Only if they create a lot of trouble, then yes, but then the trouble is done. So the quarantine is something that we do first, but it doesn't solve everything, but it's a good practice. Sorry.
So are there any questions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this was the last presentation. We will come back here at 4 at the next session. Thank you.